and welcome to episode number 151 of Decentralized Revolution. I'm your host, Aaron Harris. Nate Thurston, who is normally both of us are here, but once in a while it's only one of us. And Nate had something come up kind of at the last minute. So it's just me today and our guest, whom we will get to in just a second. I do want to thank Nate and Samantha Baker of LPTN, Tennessee Libertarian Party, who hosted last week, and guest Monty Fritz, who is running for governor here in Tennessee. I'm in Knoxville. So you want to check that out, episode 150 of Decentralized Revolution. The episode before that, we had Dave Casey, who most of you know, and he is the co-host of The System is Down, a podcast with Dan Smots. And Dan did some work for us a little while ago. He makes great videos. So if you need video work done, and you want like top of the line stuff, you want to contact Dan. And I'm also going to play a little video about their podcast before we get to our guest. So let's see if I get the technical aspect of this thing right.
In a world where everything sucks, two men have the balls to laugh at it. This is The System is Down, your place for base takes and honest, raw comedic perspective on current events, politics, conspiracies, and everything you're not supposed to laugh at. Dissident Media presents The System is Down. Find out more at thesystemisdown.tv.
And you ain't in it.
Yeah, I do definitely recommend anything that Dan and Dave do, but System is Down podcast. Yeah, check them out. And if you need to get in touch with Dan and can't somehow, just email me at aaron@misescaucus.com and I'll get you over to him. Our guest tonight is, I will tell you who she is in just a second. Her name is Amber Harris, and it's not what you're thinking. We are related neither by marriage nor blood. It is a coincidence that we have the same last name and same initial. Amber is the new executive director of the Mises Caucus. So those of us on the board, we all have full-time jobs and we need a little bit of extra help. And we have Sonia, who is an admin assistant, Sonia Feintek, who has been doing some great work. And now we have Amber Harris. So Amber, tell everyone who you are, how you got mixed up with us.
Absolutely.
Welcome, by the way. I don't think I said that, but yeah, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me. No, I'm really excited. I come from political organization, or political organizing in Michigan. So currently I am the executive director of the Michigan Bitcoin Trade Council. I did a whole shift from politics after the 2024 election into Bitcoin, seeing that as the way out of all of our problems. Mm-hmm. And I was sick and tired of being part of the political problem of the machine, right? The political mm-hmm. machine, the cycles you have, either Republican or Democrat. So I found myself really empty after 5 years of political advocacy for candidates. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to shift into policy, and Bitcoin is the only thing that makes sense to me to get out of the fiat system we're in that has ruined everything. And that's why I'm here. And the Mises Caucus, I met Angela, and I think that it is the route that we can take out of the two-party system to really enact good policy.
Yeah.
So
tell me about Bitcoin. Now, everybody here knows what it is, different degrees of proficiency with it, different opinions on it. But just how do you, nobody grows up in a world with Bitcoin yet. Those people are all 10 or 15 years old at this point. So how did you come to know about it?
So I think that I was always, since its inception, there was always buzz about Bitcoin, but I really had a hard time, like a lot of people. I'm a millennial. It wasn't tangible, right? I'm a gold, I'm a silver. if shit hits the fan, mm-hmm. I need bullets and food. But in this digital world, regardless if shit hits the fan, moving digitally is kind of where we're at. And I think that Bitcoin really resonated with me because it can't be created. It has a hard finite number, and seeing that go up in appreciation over
Mhm.
the past 15 years is what really the longevity of it was. I'm like, okay, we need to start taking this seriously. And then seeing how my cup of coffee went from $3 to $10,
Yep.
um, knowing that Bitcoin could fix that as a deflationary asset.
Yep.
It just
Uh,
clicks.
yeah, I mean, inflation is one of those things that most people, like, if it's not too much too quickly, according to modern standards, then people are like, they don't really, oh, that's just how life is. Things go up in
Yes.
price. That seems somewhat natural. But over the last 5 years, like, it's like, oh, why does a hamburger cost $19 now? uh,
Hmm.
People are kind of starting to get it. One
Yes, I'm
thing,
hoping.
yeah, well, hopefully. Before we go any further, I got a question in the chat. So you are, as executive director, you are working for the board of directors. So Angela is still chair of the Mises Caucus. I'm still vice chair. We still have the other 7 board members. So nothing has changed as far as like who's doing this. It's just we wanted somebody with a little bit of experience and some time and kind of uh, uh, a passion for wanting to kind of get things moving. So that's what's going on there. So Angela is still in charge here. So how did you meet? How did you meet Angela and want to get out of where you are? I know Angela can be pretty persuasive, so tell us that story.
I absolutely love Angela. And it was just we were at a Bitcoin conference in July and we just
Mhm.
became fast friends. There's like 5 females at a Bitcoin conference.
Yep.
So I just gravitated towards the one female table and she was there and I introduced myself of saying I'm trying to make Michigan the most Bitcoin adopted state
Mhm.
and that's what I do. And she's like, well, I try, I was responsible for helping or for getting Ross out of prison. I go,
Mhm.
wow, what a
Yep.
story. And she told me who she was. And I'm like, wow, there's very little people in politics in general that actually have action based driven results.
Mhm.
And you have to show mad respect to them. And I'm a very action based person in Michigan. And so gravitating towards her was just, I just really appreciated that. And so I invited her to Michigan for a conference that we had. She came, and since then, we kind of traveled together in the same circles, just really trying to get the Bitcoin community to understand that they have a voice.
Mhm.
And I think that my job and what I really want to take to the Mises Caucus is to coalition build
Yep.
and really help spearhead the Maha movement and the
Mhm.
Bitcoin movement and know that they have a home in the Mises Caucus because they
Yep.
do. It's not a two-party system. These are nonpartisan issues as far as I'm concerned. And I think that the Mises Caucus has to be that torch for people to gravitate towards in a two-party system, knowing that it doesn't work for them. So I'm hoping as executive director to bring that light and to hopefully build coalition build where people just have their policies and drive
Mhm.
the policy over the party because I'm so sick of party politics.
Yeah. So,
I didn't say she was solely. Oh, sorry.
oh yeah,
You can.
I'll handle the comments and stuff there. So,
Sorry.
the so let's talk about the Bitcoin movement in particular. Like, I think that some people are like, oh, they're obviously all libertarians and all that. That may not necessarily be the case for someone who is in that world much more than I am. Like, what is the general sense of just all throughout the spectrum of Bitcoin people? What is their opinion about politics, whether to be involved in it, things like that? What are you hearing? What are their hopes and disappointments so far? Now that Bitcoin has, you know, again, as opposed to 2013, it's much bigger now.
It's friendly.
But
Absolutely.
I still think that it's not quite broken through to the political mainstream where it is affecting sort of the public debate. So where are the Bitcoiners on which way they want to go politically?
So right now, I think that Bitcoiners don't necessarily care. right? We don't need government. They're still very anarchist in the sense of I don't need government to control Bitcoin. I can still run my nodes. I can still contribute into the big Bitcoin network. And that is absolutely 100% accurate. But I also think that seeing and coming out of the Biden administration that it was extremely unfriendly to Bitcoin, that seeing this new administration embrace it more, they do feel it. And they're like, okay, well, I'm kind of being lumped into Republican Party politics without being a Republican. So I think the Mises Caucus they're not also libertarian either, but it is a more natural gravitational pull. But I just want to get them activated for policy's sake. And I think that seeing and coming out of the Biden administration, they know they have to get activated or they're going to have, KYC, or they're going to not be able to hold their own keys, and we're going to have to go to an exchange base if you hold your Bitcoin. So I'm trying and coming from politics being like, hey, don't tread on me, but you have to push back in this policy driven or you're going to be treaded over. So just trying to find a home through policies right now.
What if you had to get just a handful? So five or fewer policies that most, if not all, Bitcoiners agree on, what would those be, do you think?
KYC laws, know your customer. I really think that a lot of Bitcoiners want to see those not have so stringent KYC laws. Capital gains is really huge. We want to make sure that we're not being taxed out of existence. So those are two. People like reserves, like seeing a Bitcoin reserve. I'm kind of net neutral on that because I don't think government should necessarily hold a lot of Bitcoin, but I do see the good it could do if communities use the capital gains on the Bitcoin to improve the roads instead of taxing citizens. So that's three. I think energy, kind of cheaper energy to mine and do mining operations to streamline economic development in some states is pretty cool. And but a lot of it goes to like holding your own keys, right? So making sure that you can hold your own keys and that you're not going to be restricted from holding your own assets.
Okay, so
I'd say those are huge.
Okay, let's dive in on that one. So specifically for someone who doesn't know what Bitcoin, so take it down to kindergarten level.
Absolutely.
What is holding your own keys? Why is that important?
So like earlier tonight, I had an event in Michigan where we had a roundtable discussion. And we were meeting with a candidate. He wanted to understand Bitcoin. So I had a huge group talk to him about Bitcoin. And one of the gentlemen says, I'm into Bitcoin because I was debanked. And a lot of people don't know this, but banks can just cut you off, credit cards, whatever. They can just make whatever laws and kick you off their platform and give you your cash back and say we can't use you or you're not allowed on our to be banked here. And this gentleman can with Bitcoin have assets his own now that doesn't go through a third party intermediary, that he holds them. And so he doesn't get a permission from an exchange to use them. And I can send Aaron money right now without, Joe Schmo approving that transaction. So holding your own keys is like taking it from a bank, just having cash on hand. But we all know cash in the fiat system's debunked and inflating ever so frequently. But I could just give Aaron money without, big government knowing that. So that's holding your own keys.
If that's the way Bitcoin works, playing just devil's advocate, because I kind of know where we're going with this, I think okay, we can do that. So what if Joe Biden or Donald Trump pass a law? Why? It's irrelevant because like in the very early days of Bitcoin, that's what you heard. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter what governments do because if we hold our keys, we can do this. So what could government do either to stop people from holding their own keys or to make it, how could they make life difficult for wanting to transact that way?
So, I mean, they could make, for instance, we're trying to increase adoption. They could make adoption extremely hard by saying, you can't use it as an exchange or a medium of exchange in businesses. They can make it harder on taxation. They can say, hey, if you buy it on an exchange, because nowadays you can mine Bitcoin, but it's not as common as it was back in 2010. So you do buy it on an exchange, essentially. And when I transferred over to my hard wallet, you could have to keep it on an exchange, and the exchange will report to the government every year what your earnings are, just like a stock exchange or just like holding stocks. So devil's advocate there is they could just straight up say, we're going to ban the exchanges in the America if they wanted to.
Yeah. So you could still exchange it one-on-one, but it would just be harder to do that in the course of
Buy.
right. So right now, most people buy it through an exchange or something like that, rather than, I'm not selling guitar lessons to my neighbors for Bitcoin at this point.
Well, how would your neighbors get it though? They'd have to buy it on exchange to pay you
right.
on the
Yeah. Unless I lived in certain parts of New Hampshire, my neighbors are not all going to be adopted to it already. So
exactly.
So what about the Genius Act? We heard a lot about that. What was in that? And what did the Bitcoin people think about that?
So I don't think the Genius Act really touched on Bitcoin more so that it touched on stable coins. And I
Yep.
think that stable coins, of course, just props up the dollar. And I think a lot of people think it's like an introductory to digital assets, but I just think it's propping up the dollar.
Mhm.
And we'll see how long it goes.
Well, explain stablecoin.
So a stable coin is a digital dollar. It pegs a dollar to a coin. So everything's on a ledger and it uses the blockchain technology, but it still is based on the fiat system.
Right.
So it's basically taking, oh, hey, Bitcoin is so great because it's peer-to-peer transaction system and it takes the MasterCards out of it and all the credit card fees because it's on a ledger and it's all transparent, but it still uses the dollar fiat system. So it's still pegged to the failing dollar that we have because it can be created, it can be duplicated, it can be printed, it can be monopolized. So that is why stable coins are just a fad, in my opinion, because it doesn't address the root of the problem, which is the Fed.
Well, yeah, which again, that is the root of all the problems pretty much in the world. But so I look at stable coins, the more I am learning about it is, so people ask, like when I tell people, if in the rare times when I actually engage with a normie about this and like, yeah, your money is completely based on nothing and they can just literally keystrokes make trillions more of it. And that's why candy bar costs $4 now instead of 50 cents like it did in 1982. Actually back then it was probably 35 cents. But you get my drift. So people are like, well, of course it's not, based in nothing. Well, it was based, see, the US dollar used to be linked to gold. And so up until 1913 and then 1971, so at various times they decoupled gold from the dollar after the dollar had a long history of being known as a very hard, very safe money all over the world. And so it's a classic switcheroo. And so this to me is like the second or third degree switcheroo of like, oh, we switched the US dollar for the Federal Reserve note. And now we're going to switch the Federal Reserve note to a digital coin, token, whatever you want to call it. But with this now, I mean, there's your entry to the social credit system, right? Because that
or
stuff,
a central digital bank.
right. So it's, so which is, because I think Trump ran on like at different times he said some bad things about central bank digital currencies, but so stablecoin is basically the same thing or very similar, kind of close.
So what they tried to do, and so there's the Genius Act, and then there's the Clarity Act now that it's still up in the air. I think that's still working through the Senate, and that kind of clarifies, your custody and custodial rights to Bitcoiners and the crypto industry. And then they wanted to roll out a third one, which is an anti-CDBC bill, central digital bank currency. And that's ironic. I feel like don't insult my intelligence.
Well,
So.
they're congressmen. That's what that's pretty much what they do.
Right. I know but it's so like, hey, we're going to tell you it's not a CDBC because if we tell you it's not, it's not.
Right. Yeah. So with those kind of being the five main policy things for Bitcoin people, so the know your customer, which is a big deal. I mean, the fact that you
Sure.
have to, any kind of whatever, they want to know they want to upload of your driver's license and all this stuff. Know your customer capital gains, because with that, they could just be like, oh, Bitcoin doubled in value. So now
We're going to
if,
tax you
yeah, we'll
triple,
tax you whether you're using it or, yeah.
holding
Um,
it, or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The Bitcoin reserve, strategic reserve, energy issues related to Bitcoin, and then the keys thing. So they have these things. There's broad agreement in the Bitcoin community on this. So this makes me think of, and it's not an exact analogy, but like back in like the mid to late 90s, Microsoft, which of course is one company, which is different from the Bitcoin industry, which is quite the opposite. It's hundreds and hundreds of companies and individuals. But like Microsoft was doing their thing, and this is before what's his face? Bill Gates got hit with a pie in the face and got married and decided to want to rule the world through vaccines or whatever. But back
Right.
in the 90s, they were just making software, and they had zero lobbyists. They had literally had so the story goes, they had no lobbyists until the Justice Department was like, oh, antitrust, because you're putting your browser on all of your Windows things and all this. And so they immediately were like, oh, now we need to, and now of course Microsoft has tons of lobbyists and all that. So like they went from being, hey, we're just making products for customers, getting sort of slapped in the face by the government and realizing, oh, we have to get organized and do something. Well, in that case, they don't have to get organized. They just have to hire lobbyists. But so where are we at the stage in the Bitcoin industry of like, how many people realize that the state can be a huge hindrance to what they're doing, even with what we know about the nature of Bitcoin? Like how much agreement, how much working in concert is there among the major players in Bitcoin, or is everybody just off doing their own thing as far as lobbying and advocacy and policy?
I love this question so much. So everybody's doing their own thing. We're
Mhm.
Bitcoiners. Oh, so I mean, but I launched MIBTC, Michigan Bitcoin Trade Council, in May.
Mhm.
And since then, there's been an Illinois Bitcoin Trade Council. I met somebody in New Mexico. So there are little organizations that sprout up, and we're all working together to help each state. And so, like, I did a big rally in Lansing, and I'm like, hey, I can help you in Colorado, or I can, it's such a great community because we have the same goal. And
Mhm.
unlike Microsoft, we're not a for-profit company. I mean, we get profits by being Bitcoiners because it appreciates in value, but we're just in it for the passion
Yep.
of seeing the world better for our kids or for the
Yep.
next generation.
Yep.
So that's what's so exciting. But BPI, Bitcoin Policy Institute in Washington, is doing an amazing job, and they're helping shape Washington. So I think what happened was when Bitcoin and Trump really embraced digital assets, everybody flocked to Washington, right? Because
Mhm.
that's where you make all the money. And
Yep.
so here I am in the States, and I'm like, wait, guys, each state really can make a huge impact if you just focus local.
Yep.
And my whole history is in grassroots organizing. So I'm helping other states. I mean, there's blockchain groups in other states, crypto groups in other states, and that's really what we kind of battle, is having Bitcoin separated from crypto.
Yeah.
That's really hard because crypto has a lot of money. We talk about where all the lobbyists come from. It's
Mhm.
because, those pumping up scams are basically just marketing, geniuses to an uneducated constituency.
Yep.
So we're battling that mostly of those organizations.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're trying to really rally the troops, and I think what my goal is too through Mises is to rally the troops on that level, is to
Mhm.
keep the little grassroots organization in each state saying, "Hey, we're here to help you. We're
What?
just here
Yeah.
to help you."
So what are things? So, well, let's talk about the state level first. So, like one obvious thing would be like legal tender laws. Like right now, basically, I think just about. I could be wrong. I'm getting old, and my yeah, with what's going on in my personal life, I have so much going on that I forget things. But like basically everywhere, if you want to do a legal contract, it has to be in Federal Reserve notes, basically. But if you would change legal tender laws in certain jurisdictions to be able to do contracts in gold or Bitcoin, that would be a great thing. So like, would you have to do that at the state level, or could there be any local of that? Like,
No.
okay,
So you have to do it at the state level, and
right.
in Michigan,
Yep.
they actually kicked the can to the federal level. So
Okay.
they're saying, they passed the buck off. They're like, "Oh, we can't do anything necessarily unless the federal government does it."
Okay.
So, but you have Florida the other day that just acknowledged gold and silver, right, as
Okay.
legal tender.
Oh,
And
great.
so I think that, yeah, that happened like 2 days ago. So I think that we can take laws like that and just say, add Bitcoin. But right now, we're arguing in Michigan with market cap values with the
Mhm.
crypto industry because they want to lower market cap values for a reserve. Well, we want them higher, something a threshold that only Bitcoin could reach because we don't want our state assets being or tax dollars being put in Ethereum
Wait,
or XRP.
wait, people are, oh, I guess I didn't think of this.
Yeah.
When you think of like the banking industry and lawyers and legislators, that's like a perfect storm of like real economic collapse, is to let like state retirement funds invest in non-Bitcoin crypto. Oh my goodness.
And they
I never
do.
thought about that before. That's
No, and
blowing
they're
my mind.
trying.
Yeah.
In Michigan, we have some of our investments are in Ethereum.
Oof.
We're
Wow.
really early to the pension game. Our treasurer was allowed to invest, and so we have some in Ethereum, which it's going up now, but it went down for a while.
Yeah.
And we would, as an organization, hope that they sell to buy Bitcoin. But you get these lobbying groups in there from the crypto industry that have the money. So really,
Yeah.
we're protecting a lot right now, but it's a lot of education. It's a lot of it. It's 90% education before I can even touch lobbying because they have to understand it before I could be like, well, okay, now do this.
Well, you educating lawmakers
Educating
or
everybody. So in
okay.
Michigan, I do community events.
Okay.
I really focus on chambers as well, business chambers, to try to get the
Mhm.
business community on board to create treasuries of themselves, to put Bitcoin on their budget sheets
Yeah.
to so that businesses can thrive in Michigan. And then the third prong is the lawmakers. But honestly, and as much as I think that the lawmakers they're moving slowly in Michigan. So I think getting the business community to pick it up and then put
Yeah.
pressure on the lawmakers is kind of where we're playing the cut to
Yeah.
right now.
Okay. What can be done, if anything, at the local county level or below?
So in Michigan, we have to change a law
Mhm.
where community treasurers, county treasurers, city treasurers can allocate funds like unfunded liabilities into Bitcoin and seeing that asset appreciate. So where like
Okay.
they can fund roads without doing millages.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm trying to do in Michigan is to get rid of a 1943's law.
Mhm.
So it's just stuff like that, but it's just it's just going to your treasurer of your communities and be like, hey, is this something you guys can do? Because every state is different. And it's just one conversation can spark a change. And
Yeah.
so again, my goal with Mises is to get into the communities, get into every state that has a Bitcoin meetup and be like, hey, how active are you?
Yep.
Have you ever thought about this? Because they don't want to be, a lot of them don't want to be known, but once you see and break it down to digestible action,
Yeah.
they're pretty excited.
Yeah, and I think that our thing is, obviously we don't have the numbers, and obviously, even if we completely controlled the LP, which we don't quite right now, um, you know, no libertarian is going to be elected president or governor or senator anytime soon, barring like the most long of long shots. But the thing we do have is that, in close elections, again, just what happened in the last election with, like, we were like the kind of like the Amish, right? Remember, like back on election night, that the the stories were going out that the Trump people had like really campaigned among the Amish in Pennsylvania to win
Mhm.
Pennsylvania. Normally nobody cares about the Amish. Normally they don't vote, but if the closer the election is, the more valuable the sort of discrete, identifiable blocks of voters uh, they become known and they're more valuable because by catering to them, you can get what you want. And so we wanted more, but we got Ross freed. Angela was a part of that, a big part of that. It was a wedge. There's been so many people working for it, but that little wedge at the very end of the election, I think really made a big difference. And so I think that marketing ourselves to Bitcoin people is that it's like, hey, we're not going to get a president elected, but we may be able to extract certain promises, and maybe half the time they might follow through on their promises, and we kind of get our nose in the tent that way. So like making that case to people, like what success have you had so far? How are you thinking about refining your message? What resistance have you got?
Oh, it's just how you said. I mean, I come from GOP politics in Michigan. And so I have recruited thousands of delegates for my community. And so knowing the numbers I need for the LP or for Mises,
Yep.
I'm not really worried
Okay.
about really that at all. I think that it was just how you said, but we have to believe, and I totally believe in this mission of, policy driven advocacy and getting, 90% of the way with what we want. And I think that libertarians showing up and getting those positions, like say like an RFK or whatever, and getting into admins and stuff like that, will then propel them to run for other things, right? I think that showing the efforts of somebody and showing the policies that they've been able to make and then going to run for office is kind of how stuff needs to be done on the Libertarian Party side. And I'm really excited to be a part of that.
That's good. That's good.
But I also don't know the Goliath, right? So I tell people this all the time, is my superpower is coming in here and not knowing the party drama and not getting involved. And I won't get involved because I don't have to.
Right.
I'm more strong not knowing the whole drama.
No, I agree. And that's the thing, is like, if we have our people and other normal people to show up, then we don't have to engage with people who are not serious people, which is what a certain hardcore of the LP for the last 50 years has been. And quite frankly, that's what has always sort of been a block to the sales pitch, is like people kind of seeing, different cliched things in the past, which we won't go into, that like, oh, libertarians are crazy because I saw this on C-SPAN once or something like that. And thankfully that a lot of that has faded, but people don't want, normal people don't want to spend a lot of time in political meetings and talking about bylaws and going to conventions. Like it's just not a normal thing to do. Part of it I like working with the Mises Caucus people, but certain things it's like, I don't want to have to, like going to Grand Rapids and sitting at a table for 3 days so we can vote these people out. And, that's not fun to me.
We're gonna make it fun, Aaron. I promise you, being in Michigan and Grand Rapids, we're gonna make it so much fun.
But like I was thinking, like back, and I was not a great athlete, but like back when I was like a pitcher, a baseball pitcher, it's like when I would pitch, I was like in the worst mood all day and during the game because it's like this huge thing to do. And then only when you kind of get into it and get the payoff from it are you able to really have fun with it. But like, I don't know. So yeah, Grand Rapids is something. So how close are you to Grand Rapids? Let's talk like.
So I live in the Metro Detroit area. Okay. So it's about 2.5 hours, but my office is in Lansing, so it's like only an hour from there. But I'm in Grand Rapids all the time because it's a huge hub in Michigan, and it's going to be a great time. We're going to do some really great things. I don't know what we're going to do, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, okay. So as far as talking to Angela so far, we don't have to put too much out there because I know like literally we just voted you in a few days ago to be a support. So if those of you who are joining us, Amber is not my wife. She's not my cousin. She's not my sister. She is someone Angela found, and she's the new executive director of the Mises Caucus, which means she's like an assistant to the board, executing our decisions. And so, in particular, is there anything that you want to get into about like what we need people to do leading up to Grand Rapids, other than sign
Bring
up?
a friend.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Bring
So
a
the
friend, because why not?
Yeah. So ask people to help. If you're not, you have to be chosen as a delegate by your state LP. So find out when the state convention is and all that. If you don't know that stuff and you want to know, let me put the email or the web address up here that you can get on our list for some email updates, which you will get updated. TakeHumanAction.com. I just sent one out. Been promoting. There are a few in October and November. Colorado is October 18th. And then in like mid-November, it's Maine, South Carolina, and Connecticut are the ones coming up in the next couple of months. So if you want to know when your state convention is, want to get involved, want to come to Grand Rapids and have fun and do some great stuff, takehumanaction.com. You'll get the updates there. So basically at this point, we're trying to get Bitcoin people interested. What about also we've been doing a lot of reaching out to Maha people lately. You mentioned them earlier.
Yep.
What's your involvement with that world been?
Very good. I, in Michigan, really helped with vaccine choice issues. I have a passion. I'm a mom. I do homeschool stuff, homesteader stuff. I'm very pro-freedom in Michigan. And so I just have a lot of connections there. So we've been tabling, and that's kind of my goal when I go to other states, is just kind of finding the Maha people in those states and just saying, hey, this is kind of what we're doing. These are the policies we want to drive home. Will you join us to help effectuate these policies? And that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
And that's how we're going to lead some numbers, change some numbers, hopefully.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, Hector, there's a comment from Hector. Congrats to the Harris family for the new role. We're not related and we're not married. So I don't want people to think that. It's so fun. I knew this was going to be an issue.
That was hilarious. I think it's very funny, actually.
Yeah, we
should play it up at some time, Aaron, when we do like have more of a rapport.
Or
just the first time.
Yeah, maybe we'll just tell everybody we're siblings or something like that. But,
we'll play it up eventually, but not tonight.
Anyway, so there was a question to Dr. Michael Edelstein, a friend of the show, on the screen. I hold Bitcoin. Does that mean that I have keys? So again, those of us who've been in this a while, part of outreach is answering what to some people seem like very basic questions. So
absolutely.
I'll let you answer that question.
So when you say you hold Bitcoin, is it on an exchange like Coinbase or Robinhood or Cash App? Like if you bought it on an exchange and you haven't taken it off an exchange and put it on what we call cold storage, you technically don't hold your own Bitcoin because the exchange holds your Bitcoin. You have to get like a hard drive or a third, it's not a hard drive. It's called a cold storage. You have to get some sort of a wallet to transfer it onto a wallet, and it has seed phrases, and that's what the keys are, is seed phrases that are cryptography that protects your Bitcoin, that it makes it just your own Bitcoin. It's called not your keys, not your coins. So if it's on an exchange, my advice would be to get it off an exchange and buy a wallet, BitKey. And again, I don't have any affiliation with wallets, but BitKey is the easiest wallet I found through research.
Right. So
self-storage, exactly.
Yeah. So basically, so if you do have it on Coinbase or something like that, like in a legal sense, you might own it. They might be contractually obligated to give that to you should you want to withdraw it or sell it. Like, again, whatever happens in the regulatory environment, or if a company goes under, or, it's the same kind of risk as with the bank. If the bank folds and you're not at the head of the line to take your money out, or if the government declares, a permanent what do they call it? A bank holiday or um, uh, I forget what it's called when they basically just like take all your money. So in other words,
A
they
bank
act,
run?
yeah. So they basically, if you have to get an email and a password and a username to get your stuff from a third party, even though they legally are obligated in certain ways to you, you don't functionally have it. So
A
like it,
rug pull.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
called a
yeah.
rug pull.
Right.
So like FTX back in the day,
Yep.
they said, "Hey, we have your Bitcoin. It's secure." But guess what? People are buying Bitcoin on this exchange,
Hmm.
and say everybody wanted to pull their Bitcoin at the same time and you
Yep.
didn't pull yours at the right time, and
Yep.
they're like, "Oh, we sold more Bitcoin to people that we didn't necessarily have."
Yep.
You're left without a Bitcoin. So
Right.
that's what self custody is so important. It makes sure you have your Bitcoin. So the code, and this is where we can get really technical in blockchain and mempool and ledgers, but there is a cryptographic code that will go to your transaction,
Hmm.
and you have that code as your public key.
Yep.
And then you have a private key on your device, and they interact, and
Is
that's how
there,
you get on this self custody.
and we're about out of time for tonight, but is that something maybe we could do as the caucus, is find resources to explain this to people? Like, is there a good, like, primer to like, okay, here's the beginnings of how to do this? Because I know when I tried to figure this stuff out, it was kind of intimidating. I actually tried to figure Bitcoin out in 2013 and could not figure it out and kind of came back to it in like 2018,
Yeah,
which is
that's
why
very common actually.
yeah. Like I remember spending a few days like trying to, I'm like, I can't get this. But anyway,
No,
so
absolutely. And I think we're going to have landing pages on the Mises Caucus pages.
okay.
And so if you're really into Bitcoin, we'll have landing pages up in the next week or so to get involved, answer those questions. It'll funnel to me and hopefully we can actually have a conversation. I would love to talk to you if you're a Bitcoiner in other states, if you know Bitcoiners. Really,
Yeah.
it's going to be a big coalition at this point. But yeah, we'll have a Bitcoin 101 tab. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? So again, I'll put the website up um, to sign up to get involved in the Mises Caucus. Also, this will put you in touch with the state organizers in your state, so they can answer your questions about getting involved. With the LP and the Mises Caucus in your state. So takehumanaction.com. We'll be talking more. We'll have you back on at some point, I'm sure, especially as we get closer to Grand Rapids. But just final thoughts, what you're thinking, what you're excited about, what you want people to know before we say goodbye.
I'm excited to be here. I know a lot of times, and Aaron and I both, I have children. I am a mom, and so I got in politics 5 years ago when I had a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
So, like, I know a lot of excuses are I don't have time, but you find the time. It's not very intrusive, I promise. If you have friends that are on the fence, all we need you for is like 2 days of your time, 3 days max, and it will make a lifetime of a difference for the future of this country. So appreciate being here. Really look forward to, I'm an open book, would love to talk to anybody, everybody. I'm just really excited to be a part of this.
Okay. Are you on Twitter, X, or anything? Or how do you want,
I
if people do
am.
want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Sure. My Twitter handle, X handle, whatever, is hope for the number 4 change MI. Hope for
Yeah, I think
change MI.
keep talking and I'll put it up on the
Sure.
screen here.
Amber Marie Harris, I'm pretty active on that. You can find me at Amber Marie Harris on pretty much any platform. And again, I am part of the Michigan Bitcoin Trade Council, is where I'm kind of doing my activism through Bitcoin right now, but I really want to expound on that to other states and help them form their own council, because every state's different and we need to really grit this Bitcoin movement at the grassroots level of every state. So
Yeah.
but yeah, hope for number 4 change MI.
Finally, there it
There we
is.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
Hope for change MI, and that's me. And please follow me, message me, and eventually I will be on the Mises Caucus page
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
we're making some changes on there. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks so much,
And
Aaron.
we need all the help we can get. Life is very busy, but the fact that we do have a goal, and the goal is a freer society, and that we actually we have Project Decentralized Revolution. We have a plan that's different, that is slowly working, and I'm really excited to have more people on board. And hopefully we'll get to meet. I know we'll get to meet in Grand Rapids, if not before then, in person. But it's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure to meet you, and we'll talk to you down the road. Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Thanks, Amber.